I wouldn't be surprised if like he just phoned this one in and he like just wrote themes and like it feels like Brian De Palma just described the idea to him and he's like, oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, majestic space Mars. Okay, yeah, I could do this. And
Yeah.
then he never saw the film, and then just grad students had all these themes that he wrote and like, well, I guess we'll just score out the film with these themes.
He's sitting in the premiere just like, what the fuck is this?
And welcome back to the Trashwatch podcast. This week, we went out of this world into space thanks to, well, you'll hear him in a moment here.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm enjoying a nice handful of M&Ms and washing it down with a nice can of Dr. Pepper.
And I'm Brandon. Hey, do you guys like the film 2001? Well, good news. This is also a movie.
What a weird choice. No,
It's a Brian week here, and you know what that means? Something's getting weird.
This is a movie I wanted to tackle for a while.
I could see why. I had never seen this film, and if I had, I would be like, I'm going to be talking about this like when I first heard about Book of Henry. Just like, guys, we need to. Why is not everyone talking about this thing that happened to us?
The thing with this movie is like, there's that Horsey Books tweet that's everything happens so much. This movie is nothing happens so much.
No, you're right. And when I looked at the screen time last night as I sat down, this thing's damn near 2 hours, and I instantly got mad at Brian. I'm like, fuck, this thing's almost 2 hours long.
Yeah, I wrote down this is a Fantastic Four movie, and I don't mean that there's a married couple, a goof off, and a sad guy in space. Although apparently there is that. I realized after writing this note. I meant it reminds me of the Fox Fantastic Four film. Not the Fanforstic, the original one, where it's a film where like they introduce a problem and then they immediately work on solving that problem, and then they introduce a new problem. And like there's no like through line of a problem. Like there's technically they're going after their friend, but it's really like, oh, okay, here's this problem. Okay, so we're doing this. All right, now here's this different problem. Okay, now like nothing comes from the other things.
I do have to give this movie credit though. I mean, after we leave Earth, they're instantly on Mars.
The thing about it though is we almost go too fast at points. We go too fast at the wrong points and take it too slow at the wrong points.
Yeah, they give us title cards, but not any helpful ones.
Yeah, like I'll take the first transition to Mars because, you know, none of these people matter. But it's like the second one when they do the landing. We open this movie with Gary Sinise being like, God, I wish I could go to space, but I'm too sad. And it's like, and then we just jump past the holy shit, I'm walking on Mars moment.
Yeah, that they set up, that they specifically set.
It's the one thing they set up.
Yeah, they're so bad about setting anything up that they, like in the back half of this movie, they kept having like moments that were apparently supposed to be payoffs. And I was like, wait, am I supposed to feel something about this moment? Because I don't. But the one thing they set up is his footprint. Like, okay, the footprint, they did that. That's going to be a big thing, and he's going to do it, and they skipped it.
I love the moment where they, where Don Cheadle and his team are essentially trapped on Mars, and Gary Sinise is like, well, we have to go rescue him, and he's trying so hard not to smile about going to Mars. He's like, oh, they might all be dead.
Which is odd, because he tries so hard to smile in the rest of the film.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we theorized that Gary Sinise in this movie is an alien. It's appropriate that what he does at the end because he is the true Martian descendant.
Yeah, they wanted to be a reveal in the end, but I was like, I've been watching an alien this entire film, because look at Gary Sinise try to smile, and that is someone in a human suit.
Did we actually say the name of the movie?
Well, it's Mission to Mars.
Okay, just because I've thought about it, I'm like, you know, I think we've gone 5 minutes without actually saying what this movie is.
The 2000 classic Mission to Mars, based on the Walt Disney theme park attraction.
How?
Apparently.
This movie is like has such an identity crisis because sometimes it wants to be 2001: A Space Odyssey. Sometimes it wants to be like a schlocky 50, Apollo 13. Sometimes it wants to be like a schlocky B movie sci-fi throwback where it's just like, oh, big over the top, crazy space shenanigans.
Yeah, none of those levels really work. I don't buy the like false importance of the 2001 ending. I don't buy the like fun that they're supposed to be having.
Once again, because the entire ending of this movie is literally the payoff to a setup we never got. There's one small scene where we get kind of an inkling of like, oh, this might be a theme we're going to pay off later, but that comes like 40 minutes into the movie, and the first 30 minutes have nothing to do with it.
I love that this movie starts out with Creole music, and you never know where the fuck these people are.
The movie opens with a pretty perfect metaphor, which is a rocket exploding.
Yeah, so then we cut to, this is amazing. The opening, like, it's like 5 to 10 minutes is this barbecue and
five and a half
party.
minutes. Well, so the 5.5 minutes is the tracking shot. It's Brian De Palma being like, look what I can do, beat this Alfonso Cuarón, and Alfonso Cuarón was like, done.
Destroyed, yeah.
I'll make an exciting space movie.
Yeah, where the space peril feels like earned. At this barbecue, like, I'm like, okay, I thought at first, well, this is just to get out all our clunky exposition and meet our characters. But then literally everything that you learn at this barbecue, you relearn in the scenes that immediately follow it.
And also half of it doesn't matter because 3 of those people are dead in 5 minutes.
I did note at the party, first thing I wrote down in the actual film was, fuck me, it's Jerry O'Connell. I remember that guy.
It takes a lot of education and years of learning and research to really be able to be horny over M&Ms in the shape of a DNA strand.
Chris, did you say M&Ms?
Yes, M&Ms.
M&Ms. Ooh, boy, I could go for some M&Ms right about now.
Well, I don't know about you guys. It's just famous. The computer scientist on every spaceship is a fan of genetics and talks about DNA all the time. Like computer scientists do.
And just has like by memory, apparently, the DNA of the perfect woman.
Man, I was mad when that scene happened, and then I got madder when it was important later.
When it pays off!
I was like,
M&M's and Dr. Pepper save the day!
I'm fine with Dr. Pepper saving the day. Dr. Pepper has a degree. Yes. After watching this tracking shot where it goes through this whole barbecue, I wrote down, is the choreography of this worth it? Like, I don't like these are bad scenes. It doesn't enhance the action having this weird tracking shot.
There is one kind of good moment that you get out of it, which is, I think it's Willis is the guy. It's one of the dead meats of the first mission, where he's sitting next to some woman and he's, doing it's so dark and cold and lonely up there in space, just doing a pickup line on some woman. And the camera moves away, and a couple minutes later, the camera passes by, and he's sitting by a different woman. And he's like, man, it's so cold and dark and lonely. There's like that's a funny bit.
Yeah, I feel like they paid too much attention to it the first time, but that is a good bit. But then you get so many things like Don Cheadle talking to his kid about Treasure Island.
I'm going to read you a book. I'm going to read you Treasure Island. We're going to find out how he got marooned on that island. Get it, everybody?
Well, here's the thing. I was like, okay, it's been a while since I've known the story of Treasure Island, so I was trying to remember, like, oh, what specifics are going to pay off? And literally, it's just that he's marooned.
I would love it if they get to Mars and they see Don Cheadle, and he's just like, "Arr, Gary Sinise, it's nice to see you. Want to go find the buried treasure?"
Listen, that 8-month beard that he has, he might as well be a pirate.
The space madness that you would be suffering at that point, you would probably start talking like a pirate.
Also, man, Space Madness would have been such a better thing to watch than everything that we watched in that intervening hour.
The movie The Martian is happening in the background of this movie, and
starring Don Cheadle. We were cheated out of seeing The Martian starring Don Cheadle, and I can't be any more pissed than that. So after the party though, they have like the cool space, like serious guy talk hangout at night. And I wrote down, I don't think this exposition talk is as therapeutic as you think, because at one point, Don Cheadle goes to Gary Sinise, is like, hey, man, I just got to say this. I know your wife is dead, and that's really sad, but you should be the one on this mission to Mars. It sucks that you're not getting your dream, and it's terrible that your wife died, she got sick, and now she's dead, and you don't get to do the thing you love. And I was like, why are you saying this to him?
Yes.
This is the worst thing you could do.
Now, but this is my question, though, because Is it required of this team to have a husband and wife duo? Is like
There's a throwaway line where they're like, it's actually going to be helpful to have a husband and wife. I don't know why. I guess so you can fuck on the ride. Like,
right? Like I guess
you
if
can fuck without being married.
all things go poorly, you can make another version of you.
Yeah, slip Jerry O'Connell some M&Ms. He'll fuck you.
Hell, he'll fuck you for a Mr. Pibb.
We don't allow that shit on our craft.
PhDs only, baby. But the missions that's established is like, okay, I get this is going to be interesting. Like, we're going to send this first team. Don Cheadle's on the first team. They're going to be the first ones to land on Mars. And then, like, so many months later, the second team's going to land, the one led by Tim Robbins and wife and company. Like, okay, and they're going to be the relief team. They're going to take over however many months in.
Well, okay, so I guess let's just jump ahead. So they're on Mars at this
Much
point,
like the movie
right?
does.
Yeah, the movie, that's us. It's smash cuts. Like, okay, 2 missions, we're going to see the missions, and then something's going to go wrong, and the second mission will do something. But there's smash cuts, so immediately it's been, I don't know, months since Don Cheadle's been on Mars.
So, you know, they discover essentially that, like you were saying, Brian, that they found a source of water on Mars.
Yeah, there's some like kind of mountain-esque thing in the middle of the Martian desert. You know, it's like, hey, you know, this could be potentially ice, you know, under all this dirt. And they're like, okay, cool. Now all 4 of us, the entire first team, is going to go out together.
The reason they think there's water, they say, see how it's reflective? Because it's reflective, therefore it is water. I'm like, are you insane?
I mean, we find out in a couple minutes, these are not the brightest scientists.
Oh, because when a giant, like, weird phenomenon happens, they stand there and don't say a word for 5 minutes straight.
I almost get to the point where you're looking at it, you're like, okay, this is so big, literally I am not going to be able to get away from this, so I might as well just enjoy the view until I die. But at the same time, I'm just like, they're not reacting to anything.
Give me one, like, oh shit. Give me one, oh shit. Just one.
But, so when this happens and we get this weird tornado mouth thing...
Well, first, it's important how the tornado forms, is because they drive up and they're like, okay, we're going to just point this radar and read what's inside, and it's like, boom. And it's like, and there's also this weird, like, noise that keeps playing, and so they're like, okay, we're going to find out what it's made of. Boom. Huh, it's a silicone. Huh, well, that's stupid. Let's get closer and try it again.
Hit it harder.
Yeah. Pump up the juice. Nothing can possibly go wrong. So they hit it with the radar, and then all of a sudden everything goes quiet. The power in their rover shorts out, and wind starts to blow. The sand behind them is slowly being pulled in towards this thing. All the stalactites or stalagmites or whatever on the ground are breaking up and forming into this vortex that forms and forms. And again, they just stand there like, let's see what happens.
It's almost like a bee. If I don't move, it'll go away.
And at one point, they're showing the rocks, and they do a full pan down of someone and to show, like, rocks pouring under his feet. And I thought for a second they were going to show him pissing his spacesuit.
Yes!
And I was
Yes,
like, this is
I
like
wrote that too.
The choreography of the shot. I was like, are you panning down to show me, like, first off, what kind of spacesuit could you just piss through? Like, they didn't. But like 100 years of film language have taught me that's what it was about to happen. The blocking of this whole action sequence is so confusing. I was like, there's no way in hell that this is the person who gave us the Untouchables. Like, there is 0% chance that the person who made some of the sequences in Untouchables made this.
Well, I mean, in a moment, we'll find out that it definitely is the guy who made Carrie. So this vortex forms, and then it's like it's kind of seems to be sentient because it like looks to the right, looks to the left, and then it looks down and sees the 2 astronauts, and is like, "Excuse me, I don't see your name on the list." And again, they stand there for another 5 minutes just being like, well, this is curious. And then you have Renee, who's the 3rd astronaut. She, you know, the wind is blowing and she turns around being like, man, this wind is sure heavy. Not to get freaked out or anything, but I'm just going to turn around and see what, and then a rock just ices her just straight through the, like, and unfortunately it just like embeds itself in the faceplate and she's dead. Like, you could have had that thing just go straight through. Like, that would have been like an even better, just like, boom. That's what you should do. Just like, cause what you're about to do, like, may as well be that, like, is, so I'm going to walk you through the next couple minutes, the next minute or so of this movie. So yeah, the vortex, you know, is like, roar, it roars. And then, you know, Renee gets iced by the rock. Don Cheadle runs over and he's like, Renee, The other guys finally deign to turn around after she gets hit by this rock. And then a bigger rock falls behind them, knocks the Russian guy over, and Willis starts like kind of lightly running, but now all of a sudden he can't get anywhere because the wind's too hard. Russian guy is holding onto the rock and he's like, I've got this narrow hand hold on this rock. And then a smart rock hits his hand, knocks him loose, and he goes off spinning into the vortex. Don Cheadle falls into quicksand and just like eventually gets buried completely in the sand. And then the vortex, hovers over Willis, sucks him up. He's going, as he disappears and starts spinning. And then we stay with him in the vortex. He starts spinning really fast. His face rips off. Blood just, fills the visor. And then he rips apart. And 10-year-old Brian doesn't sleep for years. The year is, I would say, 2001. It's a Friday night, and like you do when you're 10, you're at home doing nothing. And, I'm sitting in front of the TV, and my parents are scrolling through the movie channels. They're like, oh, what's on? And I don't know if they'd seen it in theaters or something or whatever, but they're like, oh, Mission to Mars, let's put that on. And in the span of the 20 seconds that the movie's on, it's turn movie on. Guy disappears in a sandstorm, spins around really fast, rips apart violently, and then zoom out to reveal a giant face in the sand. And then we changed the channel. The next day, the movie's on again. And I'm just, I come downstairs and I walk into the room and I look, and in the span of about 2 minutes, what I see is Connie Nielsen firing a grappling hook. It doesn't make it. Tim Robbins takes off his helmet and freezes to death in the vacuum of space.
This movie has haunted you for so long.
Oh, if only young Brian had watched the whole film, he'd realize how batshit stupid this fucking movie is.
Yeah, like that was the thing, is like years later realizing like this movie that like traumatized me growing up was so fucking boring.
Oh my god.
It's like if I had gone back and watched some of the like Are You Afraid of the Darks Now and being like, wait, this horrified me? What is this? This is nothing.
Well, actually, the one thing was, though, because I finally watched the whole movie 6-7 years later, and the thing that kind of surprised me, like, was the tornado scene was gorier than I remembered it being. Now we have our handy dandy parents guide to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Note. Even though the movie is rated PG, small children should not view this movie. It is a hard PG at the very least. And I do agree. It's like, how the fuck is this PG? Like,
yeah, no, I would agree with you, Brian. I even like looking at it last night, I'm like, Brian picked a PG movie? What the fuck is this? And then going back to the Cyclone, I thought because I have never seen this movie. I knew jack all about this movie going in, okay? And I'm sitting there last night and I'm like, oh man, this is going to be Mars versus astronauts. Like, this is a planet versus people movie.
Yeah, see, I was just watching it thinking that, like, that's not a sandworm. I was like, oh, what a cheap-ass way to give me a fake sandworm without the worm.
Luke sends them that scrambled message like, spice, must, flow.
Oh my God! We gotta get to that. But by the way, just a little tip: if you're a scientist out there, if you ever have a limited amount of time to send your message, don't spend the first half of your message repeating how little time you have to send your message. It's baffling. I would say at least 50% of the recording that we get of him is like, I don't have much time. I don't have time. I don't have a lot of time. I gotta send out what I can. I gotta send it out. I don't have much time.
This movie at this point has now opened up into the infinity that is the questions about this movie. Because how did Don Cheadle dig himself out of the sand and then get all the way back to base camp to send this message?
Sorry, that's all the interesting stuff that is in the film The Martian that you don't get to see. Like I said, we're denied Don Cheadle in The Martian, so everything that's not interesting about The Martian, that's what we get to see.
There's like 30 pages of this screenplay that are just missing. That is all the questions and answers, like all the questions and answers are in those 30 pages. All the interesting stuff is in those 30 pages, and and Brian De Palma was like, this is boring.
Yeah, so we cut straight from young Brian being traumatized to Tim Robbins being super horny. here's the thing. You have this opening barbecue scene, which is terrible, with all the stilted dialogue where it's like, hey, that's my wife you're talking about. Now I'll be first in command of the ship, but she'll be there. She'll have to listen to my orders on this trip to Mars that we're both on. We're husband and wife. But then they have those same clunky lines again when they're in space. So the first scene of them running drills, he's like, hey, now you may be my wife, but I'm first in command on this ship, honey.
And all the dialogue between Tim Robbins and Connie Nielsen is all just like, we're so in love. We're a happily married couple in space. No, the worst thing in the world would be if one of us was to die tragically.
There's also a 15-second diversion to mention the jitterbug. So that's...
When he said that, like, shuffling is his main form of dancing, the only thing I was thinking was, well, yeah,
you're white. That's what we do.
That's what we do. Also, when they're flirting with each other and making out, this is the first time throughout multiple times in this movie I'm just like, will you two people fucking stop? People have died.
Yeah, the tone is all over the place in this film.
Like, don't dance later in the movie when you're going to save a guy. People have died.
But so this next section is them, well, very rapidly they're planning the rescue mission to Mars, and there's just a lot of weird little haunting details, like when they're telling off the, like, I don't know, space boss, I guess. I'm never really clear on what his job is. And he's like, how dare you ground Jim? He's the best there is. And he's like, he didn't do his psyche vows. And he's like, that doesn't matter. He was grieving. I was like, don't skip psyche vows for someone going on a, like, months-long mission to Mars.
Also, why the hell is he in space?
That's just like on a space station, I think, orbiting Earth, I believe.
But still, like, you have to stay home, sir.
Yeah, but they treat the guy as if he's like this stuffy police captain who doesn't like the guy not playing by the rules. It's like, no, he didn't take a psyche eval. That's very important for this job.
You crashed 30 rovers.
Yeah, so, but the movie just hurries up to do nothing because this whole Gary Sinise can't go thing lasts for what, 5 minutes after Don Cheadle disappears? It's so fast. They're like, oh, he's grounded. And then they just go to Chief like, I think he should go. Okay. Actually, it doesn't even say okay. It just smash cuts to 173 days later.
But not before we find out that Gary Sinise designed the rescue program in case of an emergency for a rescue on Mars. And he says it's the best rescue program that's ever been designed for this type of scenario because I made it.
Well, I mean, they kind of fuck it up later, so maybe it's not that well designed.
It's not a good rescue plan. Everything goes wrong.
Except the fuck-ups. We gotta talk about these fuck-ups, because oh boy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we gotta lead into it. So we start with, they're like, okay, we're gonna meet up with this Remo probe that's orbiting Mars, and so we have this very, narrow window to meet up with it. So we're almost there, and get ready for navigation, and Jerry O'Connell is, fiddling with some hologram screen, and a meteor punctures the ship, goes, breaks through his hand, and he's just like, bleeding, and the blood's floating around. And then we go in the slowest action sequence ever. Like the lack of urgency to this movie's action sequences is outstanding.
In their voices too. Like, it's not even like they're all just like, I guess we'll float and find the hole.
But after he gets hit, Captain Hero Jim, Savior of the Universe, just says with the most calm attitude, micrometeoroids. Like, as if that's a normal, assuming there are micrometeoroids that can just smash through and hit your astronaut's hand and explode someone's hand, shouldn't your spaceship be defended against those?
Yeah, it's like, what they are, but you did not prepare for them.
But before the world's slowest action sequence, this is where we have 15 minutes of time wasting nonsense where no one seems to care that people's lives are in danger and they're just having wacky spaceship adventures.
I will say this about this. I do love some of the shots in it. I mean, this movie is really interesting looking.
Yeah, there are some genuinely good shots in this movie,
I love the 2001 homage where they're doing the spinning circle. I'm like, that is really cool.
There are some, but then there are some truly terrible ones though that balanced it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to be haunted by that split focus with Gary Sinise staring at the video of him and his wife and Tim Robbins in the background. First off, it's the worst of the Gary Sinise smiles. He's super close to the camera, and the split focus is done so badly that like everything about the shot haunts me.
And also, this home video, like this is like these home videos are Hollywood productions. Because the first one is his future, his wife, like as a young child. So it's
in
like
this
this
stock footage from
like presumably this
36
would have to be like
on like IMAX
at least
film.
the year 2000. Like we're barely in the world of DVD.
Yeah.
It's like, and yet this is like crystal clear.
Let's say Chris is the only one of us currently in a committed long-term relationship. So just a little tip, Chris, from this film: make sure you get lots of stock footage of you and Merritt. Just doing various. First off, go back in time and get it as children. Get pictures of you as children.
And as a note, like if Merritt ever just starts randomly philosophizing about humanity's future and our inexplicable yearning to go to Mars, that thing we all feel.
If she does, that means she has a brain tumor. I'm sorry to let you know.
Now, clearly I spaced for a moment during this sequence. You got it. Because I'm sitting there and I'm hearing them I'm hearing the characters in the background talking about and making jokes over the footage, and Gary Sinise is smiling, and for whatever reason I'm like, how cruel are these motherfuckers for making fun of Gary Sinise in front of him while watching his memories? And then I'm like, oh no, he's just watching he's watching parties. Yeah. Okay.
So it's especially fucked up things. Yeah. So anyone who got a little confused, it starts off like panned up perfectly. She can't tell, but you're actually watching like a home video of them watching this other video that was montaged together. But the other notes I had, the dance party, which we briefly talked about. Yeah. The first thing when they jump to the 6 months later, it's like, hey, come to the middle and we're dancing and everyone should watch us dance. I'm like, that's weird.
Oh, yeah. By the way, do they do that every time this song comes on? Because no one seems very happy to be coming to the middle to dance.
No, everyone. It's in the mission log. It's part of the rescue plan. Gary Sinise wrote it for him and his wife.
It's 0800. Time to go dance now.
Yeah, but
this mission is planned down to the second. Woody, Terry, dance.
Yeah, but Gary Sinise floats into the room and he gives this look like, my wife is dead. How dare you be in love in front of me?
How dare you shuffle your feet and grab her butt?
I will say, I think my favorite part of this film is probably the unintentional comedy that I get out of the fact that they legitimately pull a Galaxy Quest and have Jerry O'Connell's job be talking to the computer. There's a scene where they're all sitting around a table, and Tim Robbins multiple times will say something like, check on radiation, and then Jerry O'Connell will just say out loud, radiation check, and then the computer will tell them what the radiation is, because the computer only responds to Jerry O'Connell. And to quote Galaxy Quest, I have one job on this stupid ship. It's dumb, but I'm going to do it.
Jerry O'Connell, since I'm not talking to Tim Robbins, can you tell him that the radiation level is this? The radiation is this. Well, Jerry O'Connell, since I'm not talking to the computer, can you tell the computer?
And Jerry O'Connell gets up and like, I'm not going to be in the middle of you two anymore.
Like, that bit worked in, the original run of Star Trek, and it works as a joke in Galaxy Quest, but boy, they legitimately wrote it into this movie.
This movie needs a Jean-Luc Picard.
This movie needs anything.
Yes. Speaking of anything, the world's slowest action sequence,
where we get Dr. Pepper's newest slogan: "Squeeze out the liquid."
Yeah, because they're like, we patched the one leak, but there must be another big leak somewhere, and Tim Robbins is outside floating around, and he's like, I can't see the leak anywhere. We need, like light or like a liquid, something to go like to get sucked into this hole. It's like, if only we had some kind of liquid around here, like, someone who's bleeding, or maybe we could just spit, like just something, anything, but nope. Dr. Pepper. They squeeze it out and they follow it, and Gary Sinise has it. Why did Gary Sinise take off his helmet?
He didn't have it on. Well, his was cracked, so he never got to put it on, and he didn't have time to get the second one because he had to flip a switch or something. But my bigger question is, why is the computer voice getting weaker as if the computer is running out of oxygen?
The doctors taught me a song. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, Brian 2000.
Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, it's more, yeah, like, I understand that 2001, okay, but that makes sense because they were taking out his brain. The computer here.
Sure thing, computer. Let me hear it. Jitterbug.
Jitterbug. Jitterbug into my soul.
But yeah, so they eventually, they squeeze the Dr. Pepper. Tim Robbins finds this leak and he patches it up, and the oxygen, returns to the ship. Gary Sinise almost dies. And again, despite Gary Sinise, choking to death on space vacuum, like, there's still no sense of urgency. Because everyone is just moving, like, so slowly. Like, we're feeling the weightlessness of space. And it's just like, all right, we're going over here. And again, the score doesn't match up because, first off, it's like this spooky space organ.
Yes, I even wrote, I'm like, what is this organ music?
And it's just so, like, it's moody, but it's not action music. Like, it's not the music you need for
Disney's haunted mission to Mars.
And the scene, it's 7 minutes long, like this low pressure thing, and they finally seal it up. And Tim Robbins, they're like, all right, now we got to get ready to rendezvous with this rover or this orbiter thing. And Tim Robbins is like, all right, can you give me a minute? I need to check if there's any other like holes on this ship. And they're like, nah, man, the timings. I planned this down to the second. Didn't buffer the spaceship at all, but down to the second. This is our best
if only
rescue
I had
plan.
planned for the micrometeoroids.
There's always one thing you forget. And so Tim Robbins is like, well, I guess I won't check on any other potential gases. And we pan away, and we just see, like, holes everywhere in the side of the ship, including the fuel tank.
Okay, but this is my question, because this computer tells them everything, but it doesn't sense the fuel leak. Are you fucking kidding me?
It also, the CGI on the fuel looked so bad. I appreciate that it's only the year 2000, and I am in the horrible year of 2020 where at least CGI is a lot better, but Christ, this is post Toy Story. Like,
give me something here.
So they're like, all right, we're going to launch in 10, 9, and we keep cutting back and forth between them, counting down and cutting to these frozen fuel icicles just floating in slowly around behind, and like it moves around like circles behind the thrusters.
It is sentient fuel. It's like, oh, I guess I'll go back here and make sure I'm in maximum position to damage things.
And so they ignite the fuel, and they ignite the fuel, and the back of this spaceship blows up, knocks them off course, and okay, so I know what attitude is when it comes to aircraft, like its orientation, like to whatever thing. Yeah. But they keep saying, like, attitude incorrect, no attitude control, and it's like, damn right, Gary Sinise has a terrible attitude on this ship. Attitude incorrect. We have one, Grumpy Gus.
Yeah, but after the micrometeoroids and then to this like freak fuel leak explosion accident, this is when I just stopped taking notes until they landed on Mars, because I was like, it's just random things going wrong for no reason and through no fault of anyone. Like, it'd be one thing if, like, okay, Gary Sinise's problems like caused this, or Tim Robbins' inexperience, like, these things feel like they should have some type of consequence or cause. Or maybe like the Martian, whatever, the giant face is shooting laser beams at them. Something.
If any of these characters felt like they had objectives or goals or...
But no, it's just random things going wrong.
You mean you didn't enjoy the 20-minute really bad version of the movie Gravity?
Well, I will say this. This is where another one of the cool shots is, and it's like, this would have been a shot that probably would have been really cool on the big screen, is when the four of them get into a space conga line, and they're maneuvering through, they're doing a spacewalk, because it's like, our ship is fucked. We got to, rendezvous with the thing ourselves. And there's a point where like the camera like is behind them and then like zooms out really far, and it's this big wide shot of Mars and these four tiny astronauts like in space just kind of shuffling along. And it's like, at one point, it's like, oh, this is like scale and grandeur, like a movie, like almost like something matters in this movie. It doesn't. They see the probe, and they're like, okay, now we've got to, use our fuel jets to catch up with this thing. And Neil deGrasse Tyson complained about in Gravity when George Clooney, doesn't stick the landing, he drifts off into space. Like, he complained about, like, velocity doesn't work that way. This movie would have given him an aneurysm, because they're treating it like these fuel jets, like, it's not just that you put a little air out and you're just constantly moving at a velocity. It's like, but they treat it like, if you stop using the jets, you stop moving.
If you die in space, you die in real life.
And the next 10 minutes of this movie hinges on this thing, hinges on velocity working wrong. So Tim Robbins is like, all right, we got this grappling hook gun. He takes the gun and fires it, and he's riding the hook down to the lander. And it's like, all right, I just got to hook this on. Jerry O'Connell looks at his wrist thing, and it's calculating Tim Robbins' trajectory. It's like, oh, he's going to overshoot it. Doesn't say anything. Just like reads this thing that's just like, oh, you're not going to make it. It's like, you'll figure it out.
Also, I think the most fantastic technology in this futuristic movie is these like wristwatches that while wearing full spacesuits, they can like hit a few unlabeled buttons and calculate anything in the world. Like, let me see here. Do I have enough fuel to go and shoot this grappling hook and hit him moving here, and I'm on this thing that's also moving? And it's like, boop, boop, boop. No, you don't.
And, the only thing I can think that's even close to that is right now, my Siri can barely understand what I'm asking her.
Here's the thing. We already established that Jerry O'Connell can speak to the computer. Just have him speak to the computer and have it like answer him. Other than like showing them hit like a Casio watch, the calculator, and have complex calculations show up.
And it's like, and here's the kind of thing you could do to add just a little bit of energy and like sense of urgency to like this scene of Tim Robbins going for the spaceship. Like, you could have Tim Robbins, he's approaching the ship, and like from Tim Robbins' perspective, he's like, yeah, I got this, I'm gonna make it. You cut to Jerry O'Connell, he's like, computer, calculate the trajectory. He's like senses something's wrong. Computer, calculate the trajectory. It's like, he's gonna overshoot. He realizes, Woody! But it's too late, and Woody crashes, he latches the thing, but then he falls, can't get a grip on the ship, and he, flies past, and he's just sailing down towards Mars.
Part of me wonders how much of my like viewing of this section is skewed by the fact that in the year 2020, I've seen much better films do this between both Gravity and The Martian. Because, I mean, this is really like the opposite of the ending of The Martian, like where he's sailing up into space, up towards the ship. And I'm like, man, all these sequences were just so much better in those films that this just has, like, I wonder if it was at least cool to see this shit, because I was just bored during this whole intense section.
I had to call bullshit, though, when Woody's wife goes after him, and she launches the grappling hook, and it's just, like, a half a foot too short to get him. And I'm like, no, that thing was long enough to cover from point A to point B to the ship. He hasn't been floating that long. Like,
this moment hinges entirely on, that if you stop jetpacking, you stop moving, because she fires the gun and it's like he's a couple feet too far away. And she's like, well, I'll just move in a little closer. And it's like, and he's like, no, you won't have enough fuel. And much like her wrist thing tells her, like, it just tells her point of no return. It's like,
although, man, I really would have, because once again, I can calculate anything. Just it's psychically connected to our scientists. What I really wanted to see though is her fire that grappling hook and then her fly backwards, because that's what would happen.
Yep. Or I wanted to see him like finally realizing, oh man, I'm gonna have to kill myself, or she's gonna end up dying out here with me. And I wanted like the Harry and the Hendersons moment, be like, I don't love you anymore. Don't come after me. Helmet.
Get out of here, Terry. Don't you know we don't want you anymore?
I'll throw these micrometeorites at you. Get out of here.
But so she's like, I'm going to get a little closer. And he's like, no, I can't let you do that. And he takes off his helmet and he freezes, and she's like, and she's, crying, and she goes back. She's like, well, I guess it's too late. Got to go back. And also the reason Tim Robbins decides this is because he looks in his mirror and sees a piece of spaceship burn up in the atmosphere. And he's like, well, my time is limited. If she, we both stuck ahead, we're going to burn up. And again, movie sets something up, doesn't pay it off, because give us Tim Robbins freezing and then have him burn up.
Now, this points the question, though. In this scenario, Brian and Brandon, would you rather take your helmet off and decompress in space, or burn up in an atmosphere?
I would rather decompress in space.
Brian?
I would simply ignore Gary Sinise when he tells me not to check for the rest of the gashes. So yeah, then we fade to black, and then we cut back to the police station, and Armin Mueller-Stahl this is where we get that scene where they're like, this lander that, landed on Mars seemed to be a safe entry. We haven't heard from the team ever since we lost contact with their ship. And it's like, rather than show us any of the exciting landing on Mars, we are literally told, not shown. And Armin Mueller-Stahl's like, McConnell, you son of a bitch.
Once again, one of the things that sounds like the most interesting bit of the film is like, okay, this thing is not designed. It's like it's a cargo ship. It's not designed for like them to fly down in it, and he has to like on the fly dump the cargo and figure out a way for them to fly it down. I was like, that sounds like it could have been interesting and exciting. Nope.
I love Gary Sinise looking at the wife and being like, hey, I know your husband just killed himself in front of you. Really, it's kind of a bad day, but we really need you to get back to work.
He's like, a lot of us have dead spouses, ma'am. Get back to work.
Terry, I'm gonna have to ask you to come in on Saturday.
Oh, also, Terry, not to be a bother, but I know we're the second group to land on Mars, but could you bring a big American flag for me to plant for no reason? But anyways, it's after the flag, about an hour, and I wrote down, isn't this about aliens? Didn't we see a giant Mars face that we just abandoned since then? Because none of this has been about aliens.
I do love the Don Cheadle insidious jump scare.
You see a reflection of like a hook in the water.
But yeah, so Don Cheadle it picks up an axe and he's like about to axe Gary Sinise in the head, and then he's like freaking out, and he gets over this space madness real quick. Like, for a guy who's been on Mars for like 8 months at this point, like he's totally fine when people show up.
I'd say as they were taking the 15 seconds it takes to talk an insane person down, I did write down, how good is The Martian? This film did really make me want to watch The Martian.
I love the moment where Don Cheadle's like, hey, where's Woody, man? And everybody's like, oh fuck. It's just like that awkward, much like the rest of this movie, there's a ton of awkward silence.
Also, I was thinking about this. I wrote this down, like the Don Cheadle jump scare. It's like, you would think once Gary Sinise takes off his helmet, like you would think you could smell Luke a mile away, because like, I mean, there's no way Don Cheadle has showered in 8 months. Unless
two things happen where Mars smells disgusting, or Don Cheadle is clearly wearing those underwear from our Trash to Treasure from last week that stops crotch rot.
I want opinions here from you guys. I want to know if you think, because I first wrote down something that I thought was just like an odd movie choice, but I'm like, oh, it might actually be something they do in real life. Do you think they would color code the spacesuits like they do in this film, where everyone has like, okay, Connie Nielsen's yellow, this one's blue, like they're Power Rangers. They have like specific colored stripes on their uniforms to distinguish them. Do you think that is a movie choice? Do you think that's something they would really do in real life?
I think that's a movie choice, because I assume that all spacesuits are one size fits all.
Actually, this might be another leftover of a previous draft, because, they have all the color coding, and then they open the face on Mars, and Rita comes out.
Ah, that's on the moon, Brian. That's on the moon.
She moved, Brandon. It's 2020. Rent on the moon is too damn high.
Okay, so Brian, I know you were in the driver's seat, but I kind of want to take the wheel here for a second. I want to walk you through my experience with this DNA reveal section.
Okay, well, first Don Cheadle's like, he's talking about the sound, and he explains, there was a sound that was playing, when everything went to shit. But first off, he just says like this force came out. Like, and not like, holy shit, a tornado ate my friends.
Yes, which is what you would like, specificity.
And it's like, and we find out in a few minutes that like this was like they completely hypothesized, so it's probably a security system. Like, it's waiting for the correct answer, and we accidentally the radar shot accidentally gave it the wrong answer, interpreted that as a wrong answer, sent out a tornado and killed 3 of you, and then left you alive to try again. It's like, what kind of security system is that then? Like, either kill them all or kill no one.
Okay, so yeah, he's explaining this sound. He extrapolates it out. He transforms it into a graph. He's like, okay, they're coordinates, and then he builds together this 3D model of it. And immediately we see a double helix shape of DNA. At this point, I wrote down, thank God we had that very subtle DNA lesson earlier. Now it all makes sense. But we weren't done. Okay, so he shows DNA. They say like, oh, it's missing the last 2 chromosomes. Like, okay, whatever. DNA we had showed earlier.
It's a broken, and Don Cheadle's initially like, it's a broken signature. I'm not going to follow into any of this. And then Gary Sinise is like, wait a minute. Well, actually, yeah. Well, explain how Gary Sinise figures out that it's a test.
Yes, that's a whole thing. There's a sequence that drove me absolutely insane. So he talks about this. They first off immediately have this big DNA discovery, like, oh my god, the aliens have this DNA evidence. So what do you do in the film? You fade to black from there because nothing more exciting is coming out of this. Then they're packing up, getting ready for the trip. Like, well, whatever. We made this DNA discovery. Let's just move on. They're packing up, getting ready for the return trip. And as you do, after they're going through the medicines, he drops an open bag of M&Ms that was sitting inside of the box with all the medicines. And these M&Ms spill everywhere. They laugh like, oh, Jerry O'Connell, that crazy fucker loves his M&Ms. And then he looks at the M&Ms on the ground and they flashed back to the fucking scene. I was furious. I was like, the most obnoxious scene that we definitely remember you doing.
And this isn't the last time we flash back to it either.
That you don't need to do. You didn't need to show us the first time. You don't need to show this time. The second we saw DNA, we knew the M&Ms were okay, whatever. You showed DNA, that's fine. They flash back to it and he goes, oh my God, it's a signature. They want us to fill in the answers. And this is when I wrote down, you're bad scientists. You're all terrible bad scientists. And he goes like, okay, this is it. All we got to do is we got to finish the program. We'll finish the DNA. We'll send back signals so they know that we're human. We have the DNA they're looking for. Which, whatever, the film's getting closer to the end, so you need to get there however you get there. So more nonsense of this film. But this is why I started to really think about the security system. So the security system got someone sending them a signal that they thought was the wrong DNA answer. So it kills them all. But they weren't trying to like open it. It'd be one thing, they should have like discovered the space and like been chiseling at it and trying to open it that way or something. And then the security system's like, no, you can't get to our secrets, and killed them. Not, oh, we got the answer wrong. Like, why would you kill someone in response to that?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I fuck up putting in the passcode to my phone half the time. Like,
but at least they did learn one thing, because this time when they go to the giant face, they leave someone back at base. Horny M&M man, Jerry O'Connell.
Which I think they left him behind because they're like, well, if we run into Martians, he's just going to embarrass us. Like he's gonna hit on if there's any lady Martians, he's gonna hit on them. Like it's gonna be weird.
I think they wanted another ticking clock. They're like, if he stays there, it'll be another ticking clock for us to play against, because he's supposed to leave at a certain time if they're not back.
And much like every ticking clock in this movie, it's incredibly slow.
I wrote down the line, guys, I don't know what the hell we just did, but does that look like a hostile gesture?
Yes, so they get to the face, they play the tone that has the DNA, and like a crack opens up and white light pours out. And yeah, so then they go, I don't know about you, does that look like a hostile gesture to you?
And my note was, this whole movie is a hostile gesture.
The sound goes away, and instead, they pick up a new signal from the face, and they hear, "Jitterbug."
Also, that does look like a hostile gesture. I've seen Independence Day. That's what happened. A gap opened up, a light shone out, and then they shot lasers blowing people up. That's a hostile gesture in my book.
Better movie, Harvey Fierstein is one of these astronauts. Replace Gary Sinise with Harvey Fierstein. One, he'll smile.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Harvey knows how to smile like a human.
And he's just like, my wife died, and I
love my wife dearly.
I love
I just love women so much.
Someone give me a poor Zoom call. I gotta tell my mother I love her. Ma, don't go outside.
Connie Nielsen drives up to the phase. She's like, "Here we are."
So three of them brush out. They decide, fuck it, let's just walk into the shining light in the side of the face.
Yeah, at this point, why the hell not?
And they're in just like a pure white corridor. And then the door slams shut behind them, and they lose radio contact, as you do.
And honestly, though, like them standing confused in a pure white corridor with just white light, I'm sitting here going, yeah, no, this is perfect for this movie because literally nothing is happening in the space of nothingness.
Don't worry, though. Then a black rectangle opens up. Then so
first they look at their handy dandy wristwatch, and it's like, the air composition is 57% oxygen, something percent nitrogen, blah, blah, blah. And Don Cheadle goes, otherwise known as air.
Continue the proud tradition of scientists saying things they wouldn't say to each other.
And one of those screenwriters just high fives another one, is like, fucking nailed it.
Oh yeah, they left the office that day like, I'm gonna get some coke and hookers. Like, let's do this.
I want a side-by-side watching of this movie with Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the Science Guy just like just debunking the entire movie.
Man, but that would involve me watching this movie again. I
Well,
don't know.
I mean, so it would go something like 20 minutes in is Neil deGrasse Tyson would be like, well, actually, the atmosphere on Mars isn't strong enough for there to be dust storms and tornadoes that rip astronauts to shreds. And Bill Nye would be like, how the fuck is this PG?
So they walk in and they walk into the black rectangle, and it's a weird universe diorama.
Surprise! It's a planetarium.
Oh, the planetarium.
Yeah, we love the planetarium.
And then as they're looking at all the planets, a silhouette is seen behind them, and they turn and see the classic gray alien. And I wrote down one note right here, and I wrote down, please shriek in an alien language. I would have been so happy. They turn and they're like staring serenely at each other, and I would love it if it was just like...
Oh, you mean that weird moment when it reaches into its chest cavity and takes something out?
So basically, they come into the planetarium. They see, a planet, like a blue-green planet. It's like, wait a minute, it's Mars. But that's weird. Mars is full of life. And by the way, the entire rest of this scene is the astronauts explaining things to the audience so that we understand what's going on in this this presentation.
I mean, that was my favorite part, 2001, when the space baby turns to the camera and goes, you see, the monoliths actually, start the next level of evolution for anyone who touched it. So by mankind touching it, they've evolved to sort of this space being that we're going to call a space baby. And see, all the visions that you have are just sort of the existential process of him evolving and going through that. And see, there was a sequence here where I was going to like disarm all the nuclear weapons, showing that like once you ascended mankind, you can stop the warfare that has haunted mankind for centuries. But it was running a little long. The studio thought it was a little preachy, so we cut that. But rest assured, Space Baby is here to stay.
So I want to pause for just a moment here. Now, normally I do the section where it's trash to treasure, and we talk about the 5-star reviews of this movie and what other things that the people who give this movie 5 stars also reviewed and gave 5 stars. I have to tell you, you need to go and read these reviews that are the 1-star reviews for this movie, because so many of them are what you would call extremist church-going folk.
Yes.
Mad at the end of this movie because they're like, I don't understand what's happening here because God created us, not some alien life form on Mars. This movie is bullshit.
So what we see in the hologram is we have, Earth Mars, and an asteroid crashes into it and causes like a big, nuclear winter type thing, blocks out the sun. And that's when the Martian appears. And in the continuing tradition of this movie featuring sad things in space, we get a sad alien who sheds a single tear and then reaches into its chest, pulls out life, puts it into all these spaceships leave Mars and are going off into the galaxy. It's like, but one stayed behind. And then that one goes to Earth, where it creates life. And then we have
I will say the largest single note I wrote on my page, in all caps, in taking it more than one line on my notebook page, is the single tear. Oh my God.
Tears of an alien.
Like, chef's kiss.
So yeah, life forms on Earth, and we go through the evolution sequence, and it's a good looking sequence, and the music is nice, or at least I assume it is. I couldn't hear it over a bunch of fundamentalists just shitting their pants simultaneously.
Oh my God.
And eventually, yeah, it turns into microbes that turn into fish, that turn into amphibians, that turn into crocodiles, that turn into dinosaurs, that turn into mammoths. Wait, what? I'm sorry, the dinosaurs turned into mammoths?
A Martian did it.
I mean, these Martians may as well be magic with the things that with the technology they apparently have to create this like sentient vortex thing. So that's our big twist is life began on Mars.
No, the big twist is that I finally get to the alien factory I've been waiting for all movie, and it's terrible.
The story of how 2 Martians and 3 other aliens parlayed a small business loan into a thriving new planet is a long and interesting one. And here it is.
Yeah, This is why I started. Yeah, so this is why I started writing down notes like things are so poorly set up. Nothing means anything. Were we supposed to be attached to the flash necklace?
Oh yeah, Woody has this like rocket necklace that he's wearing in the beginning, and then
That is mentioned once.
And all the things that happen in this movie, Gary Sinise makes a really big jump to be like, oh yeah, this is a spaceship.
yeah, because like this circle appears in the middle of the room, and it's like, yeah, it's a spaceship. If we just get on it wants us to go to the new galaxy, wherever the Martians went millions of years ago.
I do love that Gary Sinise basically looks at them and goes, you know what? There's nothing left on Earth for me. My wife died. I pretty much hate all of you except for Don Cheadle. I'm gonna fucking go. And
so the thing about like the test, that this was all, millions and millions of years ago. And so I'm imagining Gary Sinise shows up to the new Martian pad, and they're like, oh shit, that's right. Oh, I forgot we did that, man.
Oh yeah, Steve stayed behind. Oh, hey Steve. Oh, you got a little ape man? Okay.
I wish they would show Gary Sinise showing up and then smiling and all the aliens being like, oh fuck, he is creepy as hell. Oh,
ooh.
Oh, you don't have to smile, guy.
We send him back? Is there a
We send
return
him
trip?
back?
We can bring him on.
Can we feast on this guy?
This is what we came up with, huh?
Oh, shit.
That's the best we could do. Well, glad we abandoned that galaxy.
Hey, did we turn off the tornado alarm? Because I feel like I might have forgotten. Like,
No,
I was
think
on
I
my
did.
to-do list. We were supposed to turn it off.
No, I think I did because I let the cat out, and then tornado alarm. I shut off the lights. I got the garage door. I can't remember if I shut off the tornado alarm.
Phone, wallet, keys. Got all that. Got all my stuff. Yep. Yep.
That guy's not gonna try to. He's not gonna try to fuck us, is he?
Oh, he's taking off his clothes right now.
Oh shit. Oh, okay.
He's pointing at his genitals. Oh, that's not good.
Oh,
That's
Those-
not acceptable.
oh, yeah.
He's not-
Shit! I left the iron on. That thing's been running for millions of years. Oh, my Mars battery's gonna die out.
Hey, fella, we're an advanced race here. You got to sign the consent form before you start jacking off. Okay.
Gary Sinise, listen. We're glad you're here. It's kind of awkward. Can you go back to Mars and turn the iron off?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because our bill is through the roof. Like we gotta fix this.
But we see him on this ship. The last students I have are him on this ship because you got to have tubes.
Yeah, he descends into a tube.
If you want to be a future science thing, you got to have tubes, which then fills with water and sort of surrounding him.
Not water, because it turns out to be a liquid that he can breathe in.
Oh yes, which I wrote down. Is this Galaxy Quest? Because that's the Galaxy Quest teleportation too.
So meanwhile, Don Cheadle and Connie Nielsen flee to Jerry O'Connell, who keeps like being like, I'm gonna take off. I swear to God, I'm gonna do it. I'm totally super gonna do it, guys. They get there in time, and they take off into space. Well, meanwhile, a new vortex comes out of the face and like breaks the face off. Like it's just like, so yeah. Gary Sinise gets in the spaceship. The ship takes off, flying into this magical fire vortex. And while he's in the goo, he flashes back through the movie. And so we get to see, him on the ground, the DNA helix again, M&M's, Dr. Pepper. And then finally a shot of his wife, POV of him lifting her veil. And then we zoom in on Gary Sinise trying to smile in the goo. But of course, as we have established, he can't do that in this movie. So instead he just kind of looks bemused, like kind of slightly like, that's funny.
He's like, I'm getting paid for this?
My wife is dead, silly.
Well, I was waiting for like his wife to appear
Contact style, yeah.
Contact, yeah, because this movie has a lot of vibes like Contact, and then just doesn't. This movie has a lack of commitment.
Yeah, I wrote. Yeah, my last note is this montage is meaningless.
Well, one of the flashes is also to the ship blowing up, and it's like, oh, that's the one you want to remember, huh?
Why does this movie have no ending? None. There is no ending to this movie. It just stops.
Because it doesn't have any answers to any of the questions it acts like it's proposing at the end. Because imagine the crew getting back to the spaceship and then going like, oh yeah, we found aliens and this guy left with them and We don't have much proof. Like the insaneness that would follow this would derail any ending you would try. You can't have a denouement on this story because it would just lead to infinite more complications.
All right, let's go around the horn. We'll end with Brian because this was his choice. Would you recommend or ever watch this movie again, Brandon?
Well, I have a very specific group of people I might watch it again with, because I'll tell the story of the movie game at the end of this episode, which the genesis of which is related to Mission to Mars. But otherwise, no. Like very special circumstances that I have, notwithstanding, I would not. If a Hollywood studio paid me money, I would remake this film, and I would choose one of the 4 plots that they have. I think any one of the 4 plots, if you give it time and attention, could be a good movie. But none of them as they exist are, and don't waste your 114 minutes of your life.
Yeah. I wouldn't watch it again. I wouldn't say don't watch it. But again, kind of like you, Brandon, it's got to be a really specific reasoning to watch it. It is kind of a seeing is believing. Like when we tell you that literally nothing happens in 2 hours, with the exception of 3 pretty badass deaths on Mars, I'm like, all right, YouTube the deaths from the movie, and then that's what I would say.
Have you exercised some demons with this?
Yes, I have.
It was therapeutic for you? Good, thank God.
Yes, getting to yell about this movie for 2 hours has been very therapeutic. Yes, I mean, I would say I it's not something I feel like I would intentionally watch again. It's the kind of thing like if I'm scrolling through channels and it's like, oh, Mission to Mars is on. It's like, see what else is on. Nothing is on. Background.
Like I'll be scrolling through Twitter while this is on.
Yeah, which is kind of what I did this time.
Let's dive into this. 72% of these ratings on Amazon were 5 stars. And
God damn.
I don't know how. I fucking have no clue. I went through so many 5-star reviews, and a lot of them, they were really generic and people that were clearly like sane, obviously, which is not what we're looking for. I will tell you, but I have found joy in doing the research of finding these insane people on the 5-star reviews. And today I have found a crackpot for us.
Yeah.
John has given us a 5-star review. He calls this a great movie. And his review of this film is this. This is what I believe we would find if we land on Mars or some other planet. There are many mansions in my house, is what God said. We are on Earth. We are unique. And there are those out there that are good and evil, but we must determine who is that. In the movie, we found the good.
I like that he's like, this is what we would find if we landed on Mars or any planet. Like every planet has a
face waiting.
Yes. But here we go. John has some, let's call it questionable politics.
Oh no.
John gave
that God Mansion quote in the review didn't tip me off.
I thought it was about to lead to Black Lives Matter material.
Right. Here we go. So he gave a 5-star review to a book called The Rise of the Robots, Technology and Threat of a Jobless Future. And he says, I see this happening in our world currently. Another book he gave a 5-star review to, The Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change. Great book for the non-PC person.
Yeah, I mean that's my problem with the climate change discussion is that it's too politically correct.
Good reasons for telling the PC liberal where to go, and when they bring up we're killing ourselves causing climate change. I feel like that he's trying to tell us all to go to Mars. He gave 2 more 5-star reviews to other books that I found quite interesting. 5-star for Artificial Unintelligence, How Computers Misunderstand the World. Lots of good information about AI. I read all I can about AI. I highly recommend this. And the last one was for An Inconvenient Deception, How Al Gore Distorts Climate Science and Energy Policy. Show this BS associated with climate change. This is a good read on the liberal Al Gore and his deceptive plans to BS the U.S. and the world over climate change. That was John's trash to treasure. I just love that he went from like, God created aliens and they might be living on Mars. If we go there, that's what we're going to find. To climate change is bullshit.
Like, not see, at the first blush, I was like, oh, it's actually really nice to find someone who's like very religious, who's not immediately turned off by anything that would suggest any origin of life other than like God directly placing Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. But then, boy howdy, I was not refreshed by anything else about this gentleman.
He takes a hard right turn into, nope, climate change ain't real.
Yeah. multiple books. He's purchased multiple books to try and debunk climate change. Interesting.
Well, and I like that he has a problem with artificial intelligence and robots also.
Yeah, he thinks it's fine that aliens were also made by God and are waiting for us on every planet, but he's afraid of computers taking over and that climate change isn't real. What a rich tapestry this gentleman is.
Right. Well, and the other reviews that he gave are not very insightful or very funny or anything, but you do find out that he has a wife that loves teapots and costume jewelry.
Okay.
He's an eclectic fella. I kind of am curious if the wife is real or if he's just made her up, you know. Fellas, I did not like this movie at all.
No,
but you know what though? It was an interesting watch. So again, going kind of around the horn here, this was Brian's pick for this week. It's my turn at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. Before you jump in though, let me just tell my attachment to this film before we move on to the next one. So this has been years in the making for me to see this. I can't remember what year it was now. Good buddy though, Sam. Sam was in like an extended care hospital situation. He was in there for a couple months, and so I'd gone over to visit him. Me and my roommate Clayton, we had gone to visit him, just check in and hang out with him for a little bit. And as we were walking out the door, he said, "Oh, you'll never guess what movie I got from Netflix." By the way, for our younger listeners, Netflix used to mail people DVDs to watch. I'm sorry. DVDs are like CDs. Let me step back. CDs are like these physical round discs that used to have media on them. And in this case, they held movies. And
okay, Grandpa.
Also, mail was a thing that you would give like a letter or a package, and a guy in shorts and a blue shirt would put it in his magic truck and drive it to your house and put it in a box.
And for some reason, he drove on the wrong side of the car.
And also, the president wasn't directly attacking him. It was a weird time back then. Anyway, so we're visiting him, and like we've been there for a couple hours, and we're leaving. Like, okay, we hung out, and we're leaving, and just on the way, he's like, "Oh, you never guess what movie I got." And so then we're like, "Oh, let's try and guess." And then it basically quickly devolved into like a 20 questions, but it was infinite questions because we refused to give up. So we were like standing like hand on the door at one point, like about to walk out of this room, and just keep asking questions. I was like, how the fuck do I not know this sci-fi movie from the year 2000? This is like my wheelhouse. Like watching sci-fi in the year 2000, that's what young Brandon did. And I had never even heard of this movie somehow. It like just completely slipped off my radar. But we asked questions about it, trying to get it for about over an hour. I would say almost 2 hours. We kept narrowing on this. And I was waiting like, oh, as soon as he says it, I'm going to remember this movie. And then he goes, it's Mission to Mars. And I went, I never heard of it. And it was so unsatisfying. Despite us failing so hard the first time, this then became a tradition that we played constantly, where we just play the movie game, which is just 20 questions with infinite questions, which evolved to its own thing. We have dry erase boards so you can take notes, but it's us. So the thing I enjoyed most is we would have weird questions. Some of my favorite would be like, all right, you're in Walmart and getting a DVD 2-pack. What's the other movie in the 2-pack with it? I really like, okay, this is being adapted into a Broadway musical. Draw the playbill cover. Or it's being adapted to a Broadway musical. What is the title of the Act 1 finale? Because it's us, so we get weird, nerdy stuff like that, and it was just it's a very enjoyable game for us on the nights when you were able to be in other people's homes and see people face to face. Just be sitting around watching TV and guessing movies.
Well, I will tell you, I think I have a delightful pick for next week, and I kind of want to see if you can guess it. Now.
Okay, what's the give me the year, the genres, and the running time. That is how the movie game starts. For anyone who wants to play at home, it is customary for us to give the year, the running time, and the genres. You are allowed to exempt out genres if you think it'll give it away.
Okay.
Because occasionally it'll be like sports biopic.
Okay, let me
just off the IMDb page.
Yeah, let me. Okay, so the year is 1993.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the genre, it's a three-parter, action, crime, drama.
Okay,
and what was the other thing?
And the running time.
The running time, 129 minutes.
Okay, over 2 hours. Damn. Okay, what's it rated?
Rated R.
Okay. This is gonna be riveting radio for all the podcast listeners. We may have to edit all this out, but
right. I may. We'll see how it goes. I may. Wait a minute. Is it Rising Sun?
Yes, it's Rising Sun.
Okay.
And it's mostly because I want people to hear Sean Connery speak Japanese with a Scottish accent.
Oh man, I've not seen Rising Sun. I've only like briefly heard of it.
This will be our tribute to Sean Connery, our memorial in memoriam episode, and by which I mean we're going to make fun of his voice for 2 hours.
100%. But I will say this is a legitimately fun movie to watch. Has a lot of great action. It is silly. Like I said, Sean Connery speaks Japanese with a Scottish accent. Wesley Snipes is in this, and it's a all the way around. It's a really fun thriller. Really fun action, crime, drama thriller. It's just, yeah.
We will see. We'll see if your estimation holds up on next recording.
Yeah, I was gonna pick League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but I watched that a couple weeks ago, and you know what? It doesn't hold up, and it's not fun. All right, so let's wrap this up. Does anybody have anything to promote?
Well, this will be coming out after the election, so hold your loved ones dear either way.
Okay. If you have a suggestion for a movie for us, you can drop that at our Gmail account. That's trashwatchpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook by searching Trashwatch. And we are on iTunes, Spotify, and BuzzPod, where you can stream the show. So if you're listening to this, I hope you're doing that now. You can like and subscribe and review our show. It's just Trashwatch Podcast. Brian, do you have anything going on?
No, I mean, you can find us on Instagram at Trashwatch Podcast and on Twitter at Trashwatchcast. So, give us a follow, like our shit, rate and review on iTunes, etc., etc.
Boomtown. And then, as we had mentioned earlier, my lovely girlfriend and I, Merritt, we are in a show with Hilliard Arts Council called Tally's Folly. It's a really beautifully written show. It's heartfelt, it's funny, it's hard, it's drama. It's got a lot of really great things to it. I would like to say that we're probably going to share the stream on our page as well. If any of our friends who listen to the show would like to watch that, we are going to be streaming that as a virtual event. Would love for people to join us on that as well.